So what's your name?
My name is Gene Rudolph.
And what do you do?
I'm an attorney, and I've been an attorney for 45 years.
What kind of an attorney are you?
Well, at the moment, I'm a semi-retired attorney. After 40 years, I thought it was time to take some time off. But in the first 15 or 20 years, I was a divorce attorney, an injury attorney, a bankruptcy attorney, a business and commercial attorney, and in a word, I did pretty much almost every kind of case. There were very few attorneys in the San Fernando Valley when I started, and a great need for them. Of course, times have changed now. Any other questions?
What was one of your most interesting cases you've done?
I was thinking about that, and I've represented in the course of 40 years as private practicing attorney and with a small law firm that my partner and I created, probably over 1,000 different clients. And I would have to say every one of them was very interesting. That's part of the beauty of being an attorney, is that you're always involved in something different. Every week, every month, the job is never monotonous. There's always something different. And one of the more interesting ones that I was thinking of, I represented a guy who was just a really fine young gentleman, and he was pretty upset that his girlfriend was going out with another young man. So one morning in January, he broke into the guy's house, tied him up, kidnapped him, took him up to Lake Arrowhead, and dumped him in the snow at 4 o'clock in the morning. And about a week later, he was charged with kidnapping and assault and battery. And his family came to me to represent him, which wasn't really a good case. But on the other hand, they were willing to pay, which is always one of the nice things about being an attorney is, kind of like being a stockbroker. You get paid whether you win or lose, or whether you trade or don't trade, or if you do trade. But that was one. And another very interesting case was going to the county jail and interviewing people who needed attorneys. Generally, they were drunk drivers, and they had a difficult time speaking for themselves. So it's nothing that they couldn't have gotten up and done by themselves, but I think they were frightened. And I always loved the courtroom. Somehow, kind of like sitting here with you guys, the courtroom was my home. And I spent endless hours with clerks and bailiffs and clients and cases and a few jury trials. And anyhow, that's some of the variety of the work that I've been involved in.
What was it like for you to interview those people when you were in the courthouse?
In the courthouse or in the jail?
I mean in the jail.
Okay. It was pretty weird, I'll tell you, because they lead you in. Of course, for security purposes, they check you very carefully. And when you walk down the main aisle between these two yellow lines, there's cells on either side of you, and dozens of guys reaching their arms out trying to grab at you. So by the time you get to the interview room, it wasn't exactly the way it's portrayed on TV. You were I felt kind of in jeopardy just walking that narrow yellow line, making sure I stayed out of reach of the people that were attempting. Mr. Lawyer, talk to me. Some of them were actually trying to grab me. So I managed to escape, and I learned how to handle it. And the cases were, there weren't always criminal cases. A lot of times they were injuries, accidents, people with no insurance, people from other countries who were unable to help themselves. So anyhow, there's a lot of different ones. The specific ones, oh gosh, one gal, I went to the women's county jail, and she was a waitress, and they arrested her for dealing drugs. And she was not a drug dealer. but her ex-boyfriend was an undercover agent for the Van Nuys Police Department. And he wanted to make sure he taught her a lesson. So he put her on a list of people that were drug dealers, and she was charged with the crime. And there was no actual proof that she had ever done that. And I remember meeting her, and she was a very nice gal. And later disappeared from the world and from my life. I haven't seen her in 40 years. And one of the best cases was how I met my wife. I represented her ex-husband. He was a policeman for the Beverly Hills Police Department.
What did he do?
He got into a pretty bad accident. He was hit by a couple of cars. He was a motorcycle policeman, but they were divorced, and she was trying to help him because he was kind of pretty much disabled. So I took that case, and she had called me on the phone 2 or 3 times, but we never had a chance to meet until finally in the courtroom the case did go to trial, and I met her, and now we've been married 42 years, so I guess it was a pretty good place to meet your future wife, you know.
What other careers have you done, like, throughout your life?
Oh, one of the best ones was being a tour guide. When I graduated UCLA, I got a job as a tour guide for traveling with people up the West Coast and all across Canada, and then down the East Coast. And in those days, there were no credit cards. And I had to carry all the train tickets and plane tickets and hotel reservations in my briefcase, which was chained to my arm. And, you know, and I wore a suit. And we traveled everywhere in North America. And it was wonderful, and I enjoyed it a lot. But after 3 months of constant traveling on trains, planes, boats, and leading groups of people around, I could see that that was not the kind of thing that I wanted to do for the rest of my life, although it was sure a lot of fun, and I'd recommend it for you guys, for sure. If you ever have a chance to apply as a tour guide, you get a lot of free perks, and it's pretty enjoyable.
Just one last question. Did you ever lose the suitcase, or do you know anybody that ever did?
No, that suitcase was really an important, it had hundreds of thousands of dollars of train and plane tickets and hotel vouchers, and people take tours for a reason, and usually the reason is they don't want to be bothered with all that stuff. And since I was 24, 25 years old, I guess at that point, I had the energy to do it, you know. And that was a great job. And another job was I was brought up in a liquor store. My dad owned a liquor store. And when I was 8 or 9 years old, 10 years old, I was selling liquor, cigarettes, Cokes, candy over the counter. There I was, a 9-year-old kid. If you walk into a liquor store, how often do you see a 9-year-old kid handling the cash and merchandise? But my dad wanted to make sure I was able to deal with the public. So that was my very first job ever, obviously. And I think I got $1 an hour for working in the family liquor store.
Did it work? Were you able to work with the public?
Yeah, my dad made sure I did. It was, you know, under threat of severe pain if I didn't do it, you know. So my dad migrated from Russia, and he never went to school at all, not a day in his life. They were lucky to get out. Their houses and villages were being burned and bombed in World War I. And he was about 6, 7 years old when he arrived here, but didn't have a chance to go to school at all. But he used to lie and tell everybody he went through the 6th grade. But that wasn't really true. So that was another job. And other than that, being an attorney has been my life. And now, finally, to end it, I only do real estate law, nothing else. And I represent 2 different property management companies. And that's enough. That and Ricky and you guys and the various teams.
Yeah.
And that's about it.
Good.
Cool. All right.
Anyhow,
Very good. Thank you very much.
hey, it's been fun.